נהפוך אותם לאיי חורבות. אני אומר לתושבי עזה, צאו משם עכשיו, כי אנחנו נפעל בכל מקום ובכל העוצמה.
אנחנו מטילים מצור מוחלט על העיר עזה. אין חשמל, אין מזון, אין מים, אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם ואנחנו נוהגים בהתאם.
مع هيك وحوش بشرية رايحين نتعامل كيف لازم. إسرائيل فرضت إغلاق كامل على غزة ومش راح يكون في عندكم كهرباء ولا مي بس دمار. بدكم جهنم راح تحصلوا على جهنم.
The ethnic cleansing of Palestine has been ongoing for 76 years. However, since October 2023, Zionist Israeli violence against Palestinians has escalated to an unprecedented scale, culminating in what can only be described as genocide.
And yet, somehow even more horrific than that has been the response of the Western political class and the corporate media. They have portrayed the victims who have been occupied, besieged, and bombarded for a whole year as the villains. And Palestinians weren't allowed to tell their stories. Their journalists have been killed, and those who haven't been killed have been silenced. Experts, historians, activists, us, their allies, Arabs and Muslims, all of our voices have been silenced.
One of the reasons that I resigned, there's not a lot of people exactly like me. There's not a lot of voices coming from where I come from that are saying this. I'm a white guy from the army and you're the opposite. And so they're not interested in hearing from you.
I know what's behind all of this. We, Palestinians, Arabs, and Muslims have been vilified for so long. Our men are terrorists in turbans who want to blow themselves up. Our women are ignorant, suppressed women hidden behind burqas. How could we be right? And so to overcome that, I am presenting you with a amazing group of people who are not Arabs, Palestinians, or Muslims, who are rather white, Jews, Americans, and Israelis who have real, authentic expert knowledge of the region, of us, to tell you the real story of Palestine.
I always say Palestine will free us before we free Palestine, because Palestine is showing us, Palestinians are showing us the limits to our democracy.
So to me, Arabs are not foreign people. It's not people that you can say are on the other side of a fence or a wall. Palestinians are my people. My father was born in 1942 in Tiberias, and he was born Palestinian. I never bought into the idea, this Zionist colonialist wall, the wall that they wanted to have between Jews and Arabs.
So you would call it a white European supremacist settler colonial project?
You know what? Who calls it that? The founders of it. In every document, every talk that they've had, and the way they pitched it, how they fundraised for it, they themselves said that it's a white settler colonialism project and an outpost for US and Western imperialism in the Middle East. When Mizrahi Jews in Israel and Sephardi Jews, brown Jews, would fight for their rights in Israel, they were opposed. These are indigenous people. So they use us on their posters and their talking points. They say half of Israel is Mizrahi from the Middle East, but it is to cover a European settler colonialism project, yeah.
It's a Zionist construct. It's not organically Jewish. Israeli society is just a patchwork of different groups held with Scotch tape. It's not really an organic society.
It's not altogether surprising that it turned into a death cult state, a supremacist, but also a death cult state.
Even though I also still was kind of clueless about what life was like and what exactly the relationship was between the state of Israel and the Palestinians, it's really in your face there. And you go through the famous market that has the net on top because the settlers buy the second floor apartments so they can throw garbage on the Arabs while they're shopping.
Some would ask, why can't Palestinians and Israelis live side by side in two states? Isn't it reasonable to have a Jewish state next to Palestinian state, and they would live in peace?
If Israel had been held accountable for its actions from early on, beginning in 1967 with the June 1967 war, if it had simply been forced to withdraw to its original borders, it's possible, maybe it's improbable, but it's possible Israel could have evolved into a semi-normal state.
Why doesn't Zionism work? Why don't the two-state solutions work? Is the Israeli project a reasonable project? Is it a state? Is it done as a state where two people can exist?
There's a type of education that occurs in the United States that I had too, which was that in every argument there's two sides, and if you're a reasonable, fair person, you choose the middle.
Yes.
And what that is actually abdicating all your responsibilities for thought and choice. Yeah, someone steals my wallet and someone comes to me and says, guys, calm down. You will have a two-wallet solution. We're going to cut this wallet in half. $50 in it, $25 will go to you, and $25. He's such a reasonable person for splitting my wallet among the thief and me.
Such a reasonable person, right? But at the end of the day, you're not even getting the $25.
No,
right?
Absolutely not. In the US, the idea of a two-state solution is used as a delay, a distraction, and a mythological thing that no one is actually trying to achieve. In fact, using its existence to promote the advancement of a one-state Jewish ethno-state. I think it's related to how big oil and plastics and all of these big companies use the idea of recycling in the US.
Right.
Where we're all upset about climate change. We're watching destruction across our whole country and world. We're watching things irreversibly destroy things that we care about. And we're told if we recycle and if we use paper straws, that we can stop it. And what that does is just serve as a steam valve for good people with good intentions.
Yes. So in essence, the two-state as has been historically happening in the US, where the levers of power are in Europe, paper straws to make you feel like we're doing something.
But the world order and international community did nothing to promote Palestinian rights and ensure a Palestinian state. Land theft increased, violence and home demolitions continued, and the siege on Gaza worsened, and Gazans tried to resist peacefully.
The March of Return, and especially the killing of Hazan, it gets me. I still had some hope, some small hope that Israeli society could make some shift. The dream of a better Israel, a more humane Israel, a more rational Israel is over. But when the March of Return started, what Israel did was it decided it wasn't going to allow the Palestinians to show, to demonstrate to the world their situation. They weren't going to allow it. It was a peaceful demonstration. I was looking for someone to say this is crazy. We can't be doing this. I was looking for someone high up in the military, in culture, in politics to say, guys, are you crazy? We can't be doing this. We can't be shooting people who pose no danger to us. We can't be doing it. No one said one word of protest. The most horrific videos back then. I saw a child, maybe 6 or 7 year old, being shot straight in the eye, like from hundreds of meters away. Someone was aiming to this child's eye, and he died before he reached the ground.
The March of Return, to me, really solidified one of the main arguments we would make, and that was, you know, where is the Palestinian Gandhi? Where is the Palestinian Martin Luther King?
Palestinian resistance, of course, that it has always been before Hamas. It's always been deemed as terrorism. What do you think of that Palestinian resistance?
Palestinians have opted for every other option other than, armed resistance, which is, defined as terrorism in the West, obviously. They've tried everything, and they continue to try everything. They do everything they possibly can, from getting up in the morning and sending their kids to school, which is an act of resistance for Palestinians.
When you do injustice,
people will resist.
Yes.
People who live under occupation, under international law, have a right to resist. And Palestinian resistance has been, by and large, unarmed resistance. But even if it wasn't anchored in law, people will resist. People who are occupied, will resist. I remember years ago when my father was still alive. So after he retired from the military, he became an advocate for Palestinian rights within the framework of a two-state solution, which is, of course, a Zionist framework. When a small country or when a small nation is occupied by a larger nation, he used the term terrorism. We talk about resistance, but that's what he talked about. That's what he meant. He said terrorism is a terrible thing, but it's the only means at their disposal.
Is this a justified war? Is what, on the macro level, is Israel's war on Gaza or Palestine justified?
No, of course not.
And it didn't start on October 7th. It started decades before that.
I'm pretty comfortable saying that nothing justifies genocide, nothing justifies ethnic cleansing.
And the intent to destroy the Palestinian people has been established. When we look at what Israel has done over the last almost 8 decades, the intent is obvious. When you expel people, kill people, destroy the cities, destroy the country, destroy the monuments, challenge the history, change the names, then obviously there's intent.
The end game of apartheid, the end game of all of this is genocide. Ethnic cleansing, second-class citizenship, dehumanization always historically leads to genocide, and we as Jews know that more than anyone in the world.
I see myself now as an ex-Israeli. I don't want to identify as an Israeli anymore because of the shame I feel.
That's still, I think, hard for me to say out loud because it feels like there's no walking back. I also was so proud, to be in the army that won World War II and that freed the Jews from the concentration camps. And yeah, not to bring everything back to the Holocaust, but the understanding that the institution that I was a part of and the country that I was a part of, that ending the Holocaust was, this extraordinary thing that we kind of did as a fortunate byproduct of other goals we had, and that is not really, when taken in everything that's happened since, and a lot of things that happened before, was not really reflective of how we treat the world. See the world quite in the same way I do now is predicated on the idea that if we accidentally kill brown people or deliberately kill brown people or too many, it's not really a huge deal, and that's consistent. Very difficult thing to come to terms with still, because even if I thought I was, I didn't feel like I was evil when I was serving overseas. I didn't always think I was doing the most important thing in the world. But I did see myself most of the time as part of kind of a fundamentally benign project, or at least harmless. And yeah, I think acknowledging this reality is a little difficult to recover from. When you see a new form of Holocaust happening, it's hard to ignore. It's hard to rationalize it. This looks like a new form of Holocaust, and I felt that way even before, the really awful videos that came out over the past days of more people being burned alive. I think it was still very painful to internalize. It doesn't have to be fundamentally who our country is, but it is fundamentally what our federal government is. Losing that hope has been really painful.
You know, hope is something we create. It's not clear to a lot of people what hope looks like because things are so horrible, they can't even imagine a hopeful future. So I think it's incumbent upon us to define what hope looks like.
If we can dream, if we can have a dream.
Yeah, we can dream. The most just solution I can imagine is a single state. That everybody who lives between the river and the sea now gets to stay in that area, but now they can intermingle.
A free democratic state on all of historic Palestine, from the river to the sea, is the way we move forward. Palestine has been the name of the country for thousands of years, so I don't know why that needs to be changed and to be, suddenly one day in May of 1948, the name changed. They started calling Israel.
The term river to the sea, because, I mean, I'm gonna just look here. I've written down like some countries who have basically the same slogan. In Canada, there's the phrase from sea to sea. In England, from shore to shore. Some in Russian have said from sea to sea as well, or ocean to sea. In France, from ocean to the other, they say. I can't say, I'm not going to pretend to read French. And as an American from the US, throughout my childhood, we said sea to shining sea.
Right.
We sang it.
Right.
And all of those are Western colonialist slogans that are celebrated, that are in songs and posters and books. And the one of them, the Palestinian one, river to the sea, which is a liberatory call, is the one that's criminalized and the one that's called anti-Semitic.
How is it that people don't see it and still refuse to see it despite what we have all seen?
The majority of the world is with Palestine and Palestinians in every measure. In the United States, the vast majority of Democrats, including independents and Republicans, the majority of those two, are horrified.
There's people who are afraid of just the material consequences, like lose my job, lose my healthcare, right? That's a very powerful incentive, and people have said that to me in so many words that if they didn't have to worry about their student loans or their mortgage, they might be right behind me.
Despite an almost global attempt at oppression and censorship and silencing of people identifying with Palestine, it's not really working. There are so many people in so many countries identifying with Palestine and seeing Palestine as part of their political identity, which wasn't the case a few years ago.
I agree. There has been a lot of positive change and reason for hope that did not exist a year ago.
It is the power, institutions of power, that are not being moved by our horror.
There are no shortcuts. It requires education and organization, and ultimately a confrontation of power. I would say the closest there was to clarity and organization was the Hezbollah. I think that Saeed Nasrallah was very clear-headed about how Israel worked and how the world power worked.
So people ask me often, like, what did you do? You blocked a bridge, you went and you shut down the Statue of Liberty or the stock market, which we did, anti-Zionist Jews. We stopped Grand Central Station. What did all those things do? They're not stopping a genocide. They are growing our numbers, and they are educating us, and they are recruiting people so that one day we can do the one thing that will stop this, and that is you mess up their money. You figure out ways where you freeze our society and you stop people's money. That's what's gonna work. That's what's worked throughout history. That's what ended slavery. It was fear of losing money. It wasn't people evolving in their thought.
There were.
Of course, there was the organizers.
Yes.
And there were the early people, us. Yes, us of that time.
Yes, that's of that
But
time.
power never conceded based on morality or anything. Power only conceded based on fear of losing power.
So in terms of what's the right policy and also what would be just, I think it's easy. We just cut this country off, at least for the near future. The reason that they can treat the Palestinians this way and perpetrate the crimes of the past decades, much less what's happened since October 7th. The only reason they can do that is because the U.S. keeps them on life support.
Educate, 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 organize, organize, organize.
What this organization, Palestine House of Freedom, it's about education. It's an education-based organization. Jews are going to lose or miss anything. In fact, they have everything to gain by the dismantling of the apartheid state. So I think the collapse of apartheid is going to be very good for Israelis, very healthy for Israelis, and will, give them the opportunity to finally live as normal people in a normal country, in a normal state. Everybody's going to be better off. A free Palestine.
Hopefully we'll see a free Palestine as we saw an end to slavery.
I think we will.
Inshallah.
History does not have to conclude with the ethnic cleansing and genocide of Palestinians, reducing them to relics of the past, as envisioned by the Zionists' plan. The mistakes of the past can be rectified, injustice reversed, and peace secured, with a Palestine that is free from the river to the sea.